10 years ago, you had $10,000 to invest. You're standing at a fork in the road. One path leads to the S&P 500. Boring. Predictable. The thing your parents told you to buy? The other path leads to Bitcoin. Wild. Controversial. The thing your parents told you was a scam. You pick one. You invest the full 10,000. You don't touch it for a decade. And today, one of those investments made you rich. The other one made you comfortable. And the difference between the two might surprise you. But the winner isn't always the one you'd want to own because the return is only half the story. The other half? That's what destroys most people. Welcome to Blue Chip Mindset, the winning mindset for success. If you enjoyed the video or learned something new, please give it a like. Before we get into the numbers, drop your age and what you're actually invested in right now. Bitcoin? S&P 500? Both? Let's see if age changes the answer. It's 2015. Your coworker won't shut up about Bitcoin. Every lunch break, the same conversation. Your dad calls it a scam. Your financial advisor says stick with index funds. $10,000 sits in your savings account doing nothing. You have to pick. Most people think this decision is about which one makes more money. It's not. This is about which one you can actually hold. Because paper gains mean nothing if you panic and sell. So before the numbers, you need to understand what it actually felt like to own these investments. You put $10,000 into the S&P 500 in January 2015. For the next 10 years, it climbs. Some years it's up 10%. Some years it's up 30%. You check it maybe once a month. Sometimes you forget it exists. In 2020, during the scamdemic, it crashed 34% in just over a month. Your $10,000 drops to $6,600. Your stomach sinks, but your advisor sends an email. Stay the course. You hold. By the end of the year, you're back up. In 2022, it drops 18%. You hold again, it recovers. You're the boring one at parties. While your friends talk about crypto gains, you're just there, nodding. Your money grew slowly, predictably, like watching paint dry, and you slept fine every single night. You put that same $10,000 into Bitcoin in January 2015. For 2 years, it climbs. Then it explodes. By late 2017, Bitcoin hits $20,000. Your $10,000 is suddenly worth over $600,000. You feel like a genius. You tell everyone at Thanksgiving. Your aunt who said it was a scam? You smile at her across the table. Then it crashes. Within a year, Bitcoin drops 83%. It falls to $3,500. That $600,000 you had? Now it's $100,000. $500,000 evaporated. You didn't sell at the top because you thought it would keep going. Now you're watching it collapse, and every day it's down another 10%. Every news article says Bitcoin is finished. Every person who told you it was a scam is now calling you. You're at work pretending everything is fine, but you check your phone every 10 minutes. You wake up at 3 a.m. and grab your phone before your eyes are even fully open. Red numbers. You try to go back to sleep. You can't. Do you hold? Most people don't. They sell somewhere between $20,000 and $5,000. They can't take it anymore. They lock in losses and they're out. But let's say you held. Bitcoin climbs again. In 2021, it hits $69,000. Your investment is worth over $2 million. You're thinking about quitting your job, buying a house in cash. You've made it, then it crashes again. Bitcoin falls 77% to $16,000. That $2 million drops to $500,000. Another $1.5 million gone. Again, the same nightmare, the same panic, and you're refreshing Reddit at midnight, reading posts from people worse off than you trying to feel better. This is what it took to win with Bitcoin, not just buying it, surviving hell. Twice. If you put $10,000 into the S&P 500 in January 2015 and held through everything, today that money is worth approximately $32,000. You tripled your money. A 222% return. That's a down payment on a house. And you got there without losing sleep. If you put that same $10,000 into Bitcoin in 2015 and somehow held through two 80% crashes, today that money would be worth over $1,300,000. You multiplied it by 130 times. That's retire early money, but you earned every dollar through psychological torture. Bitcoin won. The numbers aren't even close, but most people who bought Bitcoin in 2015 don't have $1,300,000 today. They have zero because they sold. They sold at $20,000 on the way down. They sold at $5,000 thinking it would go lower. They sold panicking. The S&P 500 investors, most of them still have their money because it never got scary enough to sell. If you owned the S&P 500, you could live your life. Check your portfolio once a month. Go on vacation without thinking about it. Sleep. If you owned Bitcoin, you couldn't. You checked it every day, multiple times a day, during meetings, during dinner, during your kid's soccer game. You felt like a genius when it was up. You felt like an idiot when it was down. You read every article, every tweet, every Reddit post. And this matters more than the return. Because what's the point of being a millionaire if you spent 10 years miserable getting there? Some people can handle that. Most can't. And there's no shame in knowing which one you are. If you were 25 in 2015, you could afford to lose that 10,000. You had decades to recover. You could take the Bitcoin risk, and if you held, you'd be a millionaire today. That's financial independence before 40. If you were 55 in 2015, you couldn't afford to lose it. You had 10 years until retirement. You needed that money to be there. The S&P 500 tripling your money was the smart play. 32,000 is way better than 10,000, and you didn't have to survive two 80% crashes. If you were 35 with 2 kids and a mortgage, that's different. You had time, but not unlimited time. Maybe 70% S&P, 30% Bitcoin. Get exposure to both without betting the farm. This is what people miss. They act like there's one right answer. There isn't. The right answer depends on how old you are, how much you can afford to lose, and how well you sleep at night. You want to know something funny? Both sides have regrets. The S&P 500 people watch Bitcoin hit new highs and think, what if I had just put some in Bitcoin? They run the numbers. If I had put just 5,000 in Bitcoin, I'd have over 600,000. They tripled their money and still feel like they missed out. The Bitcoin people watch their friends who bought the S&P 500 sleeping peacefully and think, what if I had just done the boring thing? They have more money, sure, but they also have trauma. They lived through 2 crashes that felt like the end of the world. The grass is always greener. The S&P people think they played it too safe. The Bitcoin people think they played it too risky. And everybody wishes they could go back and do it differently. So what about the next 10 years? Will Bitcoin keep going up? Will the S&P 500 keep delivering steady returns? Will Bitcoin crash and never recover? Nobody knows. Anyone who tells you they know is lying or selling you something. The S&P 500 has existed for almost 100 years. It survived the Great Depression, World War II, the dot-com crash, 2008, and the scamdemic. It always recovered. That's 100 years of data. Bitcoin has existed for 15 years. It's survived multiple crashes. It's gone from zero to $1 trillion asset class. But it's still young, still volatile, still uncertain. The S&P 500 is the proven path. Bitcoin is the potential path. The S&P will probably make you wealthy over 30 years. Bitcoin might make you rich in 10 years or might go to zero. If you're young and can afford to lose the money, put some in Bitcoin. Not all of it, not even most of it, but some. Enough that if it moons, your life changes. Enough that if it goes to zero, you're not ruined. Maybe 10%, maybe 20%. If you're older and need that money for retirement, stick with the S&P 500. The extra return from Bitcoin isn't worth the risk of losing everything right before you need it. Tripling your money in 10 years is still incredible. If you're somewhere in the middle, split it. 70% S&P 500, 30% Bitcoin, or 80-20. Whatever lets you participate in both without losing sleep over either. Because the worst thing you can do is go all in on one, watch the other explode, and spend the rest of your life saying what if. The people who got rich on Bitcoin held through hell. The people who built wealth in the S&P 500 stayed patient for decades. Both paths work, but they require different things from you. Bitcoin requires nerves of steel and emotional control. The S&P 500 requires patience and time. Pick the one that matches who you actually are, not who you wish you were. 10 years ago, you had a choice. Today, you still have that choice. The numbers are different, the prices are higher, but the decision is the same. Do you want the steady climb or the wild ride? Both can make you wealthy, but only one will let you sleep at night, and only you know which one that is. Drop your allocation in the comments. Are you all in on one, or are you splitting it? Because the way you answer says everything about how you see risk and what kind of life you want to live.